Well, good afternoon and welcome to Cover Your Assets in our brand new time slot here on The Patriot. Please give us a call. We are local at 651-204-1700. That's 651-204-1700. And if you're just catching us for the first time, because we've moved here on The Patriot, I'd like to introduce part of the Cover Your Assets team. We've got Mr. Craig Nestor here, Foreclosure Defense, and he is sort of a people's champion and a guide. We'll get more into that in just a moment. Also, Todd Rooker, Exclusive Access, highly acclaimed mastery strategist for really financial tactics here in the 21st century. Good afternoon, guys.
Well, good afternoon, Kelly.
Wonderful day today. You know, Todd has his seminar at the Mall of America, and we appreciate you keeping us going at the show. Todd taking a break from that. But only Todd Rooker would have a credit seminar 2 weeks before Christmas.
Really? Really? I mean, my plastic is melting right now in my wallet, Todd.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, no, but it gets better. It's at the Mall of America.
Yeah.
The Ramada.
So after I tell you how you'll destroy your credit by using your credit cards, you can go right across the street and do exactly that.
Completely
there you
disregard
go, man.
everything
Absolutely.
that he says and go have a blast.
For more information, obviously, if you're hearing us now, you haven't made it to the seminar, but it's ultimatecreditcontrol.com. That's ultimatecreditcontrol.com. Great information there. You can float inquiries to Todd and the rest of the team on that and other things. So, Todd, seriously, by way of explanation, what's been talked about so far today at the Ramada near the Mall of America?
The beginning of our seminar has been covering credit and how it really works. You know, to begin to throw out information is only valid to the extent that you have a grasp of understanding. Most people believe they understand credit. Fairly straightforward, pay your bills on time and everything's great. And I essentially am dispelling every one of those myths, the things that people tend to believe.
Okay. So what are things that most people would be shocked to find out about credit that the average person would never know?
They would be shocked to find out that if you miss one single payment, your credit score will go down by as much as 100 points or more.
100 points.
Yeah, they would be surprised to find that the person who's never missed a payment ever in their entire lives will see the greatest impact in terms of how much lower the score will go. Meaning that if you miss one payment and you've never missed one your entire life, that one missed payment will knock your credit score back as much as 100 points, yet the others that follow will have a minimized or mitigated effect, meaning not as great. So it's the person who's never missed a payment in their lives who will be beaten up the most in terms of one missed payment and the impact it has on their score.
So what does a person need to consider and think about with that knowledge in mind? Obviously, you don't want to miss that payment, but what kind of strategy can you arm folks with to maybe deflect some of these really draconian things that we didn't even know were out there?
To understand who's really in control of the credit industry, not necessarily to go file a class action lawsuit or get a bunch of people to sign a petition, but at least to have a basis of understanding that will enable you to operate and navigate. The first, maybe most important component is the credit card industry has its arms wrapped around the credit scoring industry to such a degree that literally nearly 1/3 of your credit score is coming from the usage that you that is compiled and reported to the credit reporting agencies monthly, which means that if you don't have credit cards or you don't use the ones that you have, if you've suffered some type of a negative impact in your credit score, overcoming it without credit cards, meaning that, well, I'm just going to cut up the credit cards and operate on cash, is quite literally one of the biggest mistakes you could possibly make, but it's one that people generally assume is a good strategy. It just doesn't work.
Todd, how is it now we see this where someone misses a payment on a credit card and they have other credit cards that are not affiliated with that specific card, yet those other cards, their limits are affected and their rates are affected by, you miss a MasterCard payment, it affects your Visa card. How does that, what happens in that?
Well, it's a great question that you bring up because the answer would have been different had you just asked me the same thing a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. If a person defaulted a couple of years ago, there were guidelines that many banks and credit card companies subscribed to known as universal default, where if you had missed a payment with one creditor, it gave them the ability to decrease your available credit line and increase your interest rates to the maximum usury in any particular state. In our state in Minnesota, it just happens to be 33% or 32.9% being the maximum.
That's legal?
Yeah, that's kind of the loan sharking business, isn't it? But you know, when you understand the credit card industry, you're going to begin to think of it in that way when you really get it. But Just missing one payment can change the world. So in the old days, where if you missed a payment on your mortgage or your investment property or one credit card, you could have 7 other credit cards that you'd never missed a single payment with, and see all of those credit card interest rates go from your 1.9% to 26% overnight, even though you'd never missed a single payment with them. Now, our government, every administration since I've been born, has been, focused on revamping the credit card industry. And frankly, credit cards in the way they're used today didn't exist when I was born, so I'll take that back a bit. But the one thing that I'll say about this is that the new administration actually did do some major overhaul of the credit industry, the credit card unsecured debt industry per se. However, the industry and the lobbyists associated with that industry are pretty smart. So
they're very significant too. I mean, they have millions of dollars to influence legislation.
Right. And those changes were to say that if you missed a payment with one creditor, you did not have the right to increase interest rates on other credit lines. However, you can certainly take away the available credit limit instantly at a whim for no particular reason whatsoever. But what the credit card industry did to get around that very simply is to say, okay, we're not going to increase your interest rates because you've missed a payment with someone else and you didn't miss a payment with us. We're now going to increase your interest rates because the credit score threshold that was required to qualify for this credit card now is 720. You've missed one payment elsewhere. Your score's gone down over 100 points. You no longer meet that threshold. And now because of that, we can increase your interest rate to the maximum usury of 32.9%. Wow.
They're not pulling everybody's credit every month. So how do they find out?
Well, actually, they can do soft inquiries, and on an ongoing basis, they get information. The credit industry, interesting thing, the credit bureaus are not government agencies. So the thing to know about that is that I don't need to pull your credit report to get an enormous amount of information. I can simply purchase a list of qualified prospects. So if I'm looking for people who make this amount of income, have these average credit scores, live in this zip code, and all of these other things, what you'd be surprised to know is those companies, which are list broker companies, TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax, are in point of fact the largest list broker services in the United States. And so those companies...
So they sell the information.
They sell the information. And people say, well, you can't do that because unless you have an authorization to pull credit, you can't do that. I didn't say they were pulling your credit. I'm saying they're using criteria to formulate a list. And when you've got up to 5 criterion on a list, I know a whole lot about you. And I never needed to have verification or authorization to pull your credit. I can get that, and I know a lot about you. Credit card industry shares information back and forth. They know so much about you. They manage that data just like a bureau themselves. And they have the ability to pull your credit at any time without your authorization if you do business with them.
So Todd, with the remaining time left in the seminar today, ultimatecreditcontrol.com for more information. Now that everybody is terrified and we're all looking over our shoulder for Big Brother, what are some of the tools and strategies that you're going to be dispensing?
The tools and strategies, first and foremost, will always be proper money management to ensure that you don't have hiccups. Because when you miss a payment, everything that you do in terms of trying to build, keep, and maintain your credit will go away overnight. So if you don't focus on proper money management, frankly, credit repair or credit improvement is a colossal waste of time. You've got to have that dialed in. It's more important than anything. Having said that, then you have to demonstrate good payment history with the bureaus. Well, there's an important thing to consider because many of the creditors that you may be paying every single month do not report to the credit reporting industry at all, or if they do, they only report to one of the 3 bureaus, which means if you go to get a mortgage, who generally is going to pull what's known as a tri-merge from the 3 major bureaus, TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax, if the small bank that you do the majority of your business with is only reporting to Equifax, that'll be your high score. When your credit is being pulled, that'll be the high score that'll be thrown out and disregarded, as will the low score, and they'll take the middle score. It'll do you virtually no good.
And the best part is there's no quiz after this, so you're not going to have to, you're not required to learn it. Just get it. Right?
Well, and there's a lot to get, which is why I think something like the Ultimate Credit Control Seminar is such a great thing underway now at the Ramada near the Mall of America.
It's 8 hours long, Todd.
Yes.
It's a big deal. Hey, there's so much, everything that you...
But they're enjoying the punishment. Come on.
Everything you wanted to know about credit, but were afraid to ask. When we come back here on Cover Your Assets in our brand new time slot, 651-204-1700. That's 651-204-1700. We'll actually reintroduce Todd and Craig and the Cover Your Assets team and why we're here. Stick around.